Hello, we are here for one more lesson of this 4M idea architecture 19 version, and the topic for today will be three groups of functionalities commands called blocks, attributes, and external references. These three sets of commands, blocks, attributes, and external references, provides mechanisms for managing entities in your drawings. And they can also include additional information into the drawing, the standard drawing, which the user is working with. Starting with blocks, in these blocks we can combine entities into one single entity, and then we can reuse it. Let us start to see how to create a block first and how to deal with blocks. I will create one very simple drawing, one circle. I think it's enough for the test. The idea of the blocks, it is to create this special entity. So inside draw, we have a command called block, and we can make two types of blocks. This first one, save block to the disk, and this will create one independent drawing. And the make will create also a block that we can reuse, but it will create a block that will be used only inside our drawing. So let us see I would say the normal concept, which is save the block to disk. So save it. We have this information to give. So we can have as source a block, all the drawing. We can choose only certain entities. The base point we can give it also. So I will say base point, and I will say in the middle of my circle. We can then select the entities, and on the selection we can rotate the entities, which is they will stay in the drawing. They will convert it to a block, which is they will be associated to each other, and they will be deleted. Okay, I will leave the retain. I will give it a name, for example A, and I can insert some units. I would say undefined. Okay, sorry, forgot to choose the objects, and now okay, and the block was created. What happens now is that I can go to my insert command. I have a function also called block, and I can have the block name if it is something that is inside my file, or simply go into my disk and say somewhere, I'm not sure where I've saved it, probably not here. Let us make a new one to see. Okay, it's saved to this folder here. I will redo the same. So entities, select point, this one, retain select entities, this guy here, and I will say now a BAA, whatever. So save it and do it, and now insert my block. So go and browse it, so BAA. I can specify these informations, the insertion point, the scale or rotation, and I can explode the block, which is the splitting of the entities that come inside. Everything is specified on screen, but I don't want to choose any scale, so it is correct. Rotation, it is correct. So insertion point, and as you can see, I insert it here. So this is how to work with blocks. It is very easy, and it is very useful to organize your information and to reuse the information for future use. Okay. Then we have another concept called the attributes. And the attributes can associate information like text, for example, into your blocks. And then you can extract those informations that are inside the block and extract it, for example, to a separate file as, for example, a database for further analysis and for open this data in other software. This is also very easy to understand. The use we can do with these attributes, it is very interesting because we can have it for several purposes, and this is a very particular entity that enters on the block definition. So when we make the block, we need to have the attribute already done. So first I will go to draw, this block define attributes, and now we have this dialog box that we can define the mode for the attributes. It can be invisible, a constant, verified will ask you for the value every time the block is inserted, and the system checks that there is an attribute inside. This is preset already supplied to the system, locked position and multiple lines. Okay, this is the tag, which is what is I will say verified, what is shown. So I will say, for example, the tag will be 1, this will be the question 2, and the default will be, for example, 3. It doesn't matter really about this in particular. So text height 1, it is okay. So I will specify a point like here. So now when I create my block, I will make another block. So save block to the disk. Point, okay, I will choose the center of this one. I will choose the entities first, so that I don't forget to do it CCC. So save it and select the entities. I must choose the entities to include in the block and my attribute. So I will choose these ones and confirm, do it. Okay. Now again I will choose the insert. I will insert my block, and from file I will browse it, this one. Okay, everything the same as before, and I will say it here, and now you see enter attribute values. So it was the prompt and the default value that is inside, and I can say no, I don't want any of these, I want this value here, and do it. And this is quite interesting because we can define values with the same block for different situations. We can do also something like the extract attributes, which allow us to select a block, for example this one. In this block we can extract the attribute information to this type of files. These are ASCII files, and they have a proper format inside, and you can see that format in our theoretical course. It is shown. I will not do it here. And besides that, if we want to choose any of these files, we must have a template file, okay, somewhere. I don't have it. And if you want a DXF file, just output saying whatever it is, save it, and extract. And inside now you have the information from the attributes of this block. So it is also quite interesting and very useful also in terms of the use to manage information of the blocks, because usually blocks are used for library items or others. Then you have the last group of functions, what we can call the external references. And with these external references, we can link separate information entities to a drawing. And this is also a very useful command, because one of the main ideas that we can give about the use of these external references is the possibility that we have to link an outside drawing to our current one. So we can link this and we can manage the information and to have automatic updates without having a very big file. Okay, let's try to make a very easy example also, and I will clean this. I will make one square. I will save it for my clipboard, and I will call it square. So save it. Now I will create a new drawing. So okay, very easy. I will create a circle. Okay, and we'll do a save as also, and we'll call it circle. Okay, now I will insert my square here, and I can do it under the insert menu and call it external reference. So I will do the attach, and I will look for my file. So square, open it. I can do this type of thing, so I can do the attachment or the overlay, and this type of information, certain points, scale and rotation. Okay, everything it is okay, perfect. Now only the insertion point will be supplied by the user. I will retain the path where my file is. And this attachment or overlay, it is something that we can do having the image or only a reference to the file. Okay, I will say the attachment. So, okay, insertion point for block, and okay, I'm not sure. Okay, my square, it's here, it's a little bigger. I was not seeing the scale. And if I go to my square now, I have it open. I will change it, for example, with a fillet command. Radius, I'm not sure the size of this guy, so let us hope it's not very small. Yeah, very small, because, okay, I need to explode it, or not. Let us simply do a line, okay, and save it. And now my circle, my drawing where this file is inserted. So I will call the external reference, or the xref manager, it is the same, and I can do reload. I'm not sure if it take a little time to update, but as you can see, it updated quite easy the information, because it went to the original file and simply took the latest version. So, and in here we can attach, which is to call the file inside, the detach, which is remove the file from here, reload to grab a version, and load it to take it out of the drawing also. And then we can bind or open it, and the bind, it is to keep an image, or the open to took it permanently to our drawing. So and then the path, if the file changes place, we can go and search for the new place and create again the link to the new place where the file is stationary, if you want. So basically it's this. This is a very big advantage in terms of the work inside of the system, because this allows collaborative work with several elements. We can have, for example, one original file, a master file for several people, and everybody saves to that original file, and that file, it is updated more or less automatically. So it opens new possibilities about the collaboration between several users in the same sharing the same information. I hope that these notions and these examples of the system were clear enough, and for any help that you may need about these topics, let us know. We are here to give you whatever you may need in terms of